Hello, everyone. This is Ernst Harth. I've been in dozens of things, but you probably know me most as the great child from 13 Ghosts. Just wanted to say hi and welcome to the Movie Raid Show.
It's time for the Movie Raid. Tonight's victim is actor Ernst Harth. Has done many other films in his lifetime, such as Crawl Space and 13 Ghosts. Hello.
Hello. How are you doing today?
Fantastic, man. So, have we been doing any other new projects or any new events that you care to let everybody know that has not yet discovered it yet?
Yeah, I have a film that'll be coming out shortly called Riding Shotgun. I had a small cameo in that, basically a favor for the director. But Dion Copland, a new filmmaker, had a film Cold Wind Blowing, a horror film that came out, and so I've got that one to look forward to. Plus on YouTube, the new music video I did for a band called Melody Horror. The video is Thick as Thieves. Well, there's two actors in it. One is the singer and one is me, and it's a pretty crazy, trippy video. Thick as Thieves, Melody Horror featuring Mello and the Joy Thieves. And then also Johnny Logan Harley has a new graphic novel out about his Frozen Dead comic series celebrating their 25th anniversary, and he was nice enough to include me as a guest star, so my Ernst Harth is in the novel and has a little bit of a storyline, and it's a great honor.
You mentioned about the comic book. Like, is that a totally different new world to actually experience? Like, have you had an actual real taste of that in comparison as far as character acting goes? Is that a different realm for you in a way?
I've done a couple animated films, and so I had a taste of that. Did two of the Asterix and Obelix films, which are massive internationally, not so big in the United States. But this was the first time I've had anything to do with comics. It was Johnny Logan Harley, the artist. He has also a line of comics called Horror Adorables, and it's like cute little drawings of horror characters, and that's how I came to know him. He had done some characters of my 13 Ghost character, the Great Child, and also Minor 49er from Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed, and I had liked what he had done, and he had sent me a shirt to wear at conventions and what have you with the characters on it, and that's how I became interested in the work. It turned out that he's been doing this Frozen Dead cartoon for 25 years, and he was getting ready to do a 25th anniversary, and boy, it's really opened up the world to me, because you have the horror community, you have the comics community, and there's a lot of, as they say with the Venn diagram, there's a lot of crossover on the two. I never realized that the comic world and the horror world are so closely tied together, but it's nice to be in a cartoon and open up a comic and see yourself drawn as yourself, interacting with the characters from his comic book. It's a nice honor, and he was nice enough to allow me to write the dialogue for my character. He says, "I want you to say what you would say," so that was fun. It's always nice when people want to honor you with something, and putting me in a graphic novel was something I never expected.
And it's usually hard to actually get that kind of a freedom to do what you want with a character, and there's so many different areas, like you mentioned. You have the comic realm, you have the indie realm, you have the Hollywood realm, you have all kinds of realms. But as far as character goes, you played many characters between film and television. Do you feel that had you started more or discovered earlier and moved into the animated and so far, as far as like developing character, would you say that is a real good starter rather than just such as theater or regular plays or anything like that?
I've only done one play in my whole life, and that was back in junior or senior year of high school. So I don't have much of the background in the theatrical training, but I've always been pretty much a instinctual actor. I've always, lived in the moment. And the good thing about when you're that type of actor is people always go, I don't know if I could act. But the reality is everybody acts every day of their life. The second you walk out of the house, you're never truly yourself. You're always whoever you decided to be in that situation. And all the little white lies and all the fibs we tell, you're always acting. And so, taking that, knowing that, you can do this because you live in the real world where you're always having to come up with things on the spot. So you just take that and move it over to the film world. But it's nice when you're given the opportunity to create a character where you get to decide how the character is going to walk, how the character is going to hold himself, what he's going to look like. He's going to have a mustache, no mustache, glasses, no glasses. A lot of times you have no freedom. they give you the breakdown of the character and they say, this is how we want it, this is how you're going to play it. Especially the larger the role, the more freedom you have. But it's always nice, like with, for example, on the A-Team, I played Gilbert, the crematorium attendant, and Joe Carnahan, who directed that, he had executive produced Smokin' Aces 2, where I played Baby Boy Tremor. So he had known of me. So when he offered me the role in the A-Team, it was basically the freedom to create the character. So, coming up with the pencil-thin mustache and coming up with the Kramer-type hairstyle and the big glasses with the little librarian strings hanging down from them. And, it's always fun to just go crazy. It's like, how would I create this character? But, yeah, as far as the theatrical training and coming from a theater background, I didn't have any of that. So my only training was the real world and improvising in the moment. And that was what got me with the larger roles and getting to create stuff. A lot of times you're just a cookie cutter. You're just, they just need somebody to fill the role. So you just stay there, say the lines, go home. Thanks for coming. It's always nice when you can add your touch to something.
Do you feel there's a fine line between depth and detail of character, regardless of what role that you play, and no matter how small or even medium support role, do you feel like there's a subtle line between the two, or do you have your own definition?
For example, there's actors who stole scenes with one line of dialogue. There's extras who have decided my character is having a day of thing. You sit there in the background of a scene with that attitude, and the opportunity to create some depth in a character, it doesn't matter the size of the role. It just depends on how much work you want to do. And are you doing it for yourself, or are you hoping the camera's going to catch you? When I'm doing a scene, I like to break it down into how is this going to make the scene better first, because I don't like to think of myself first. I like to think of the scene first. So how is anything that I'm going to do going to make the scene better? Is it going to make the scene work, flow better? Then it's like, what interesting touches can I bring to this? What little Ernstiisms, things that people have recognized that I do, certain arm movements, or just over time, things that you didn't even realize you were doing, you eventually realize, oh, those are sort of my trademarks, because you're not really consciously doing. So then once you've been able to spot those things, then you can consciously add them. Find all those little things add depth to a character, because so many times when you watch an actor in a film, you can tell with some actors, it's like a part of them has just shut off because they were just waiting for the other actor to finish his lines of dialogue so they can turn themselves back on and do their thing. And I find that characters are more interested, when they're listening to what the other actor is saying rather than when they're talking. So many times directors have said, thank you for just being interesting, because I always have something to cut to. If I need to change the editing or I need to break up a shot, I know that I can always cut away to Ernst, because Ernst will be doing something interesting. People just don't stand still in life. If you're walking down the street or you're standing somewhere talking to your buddy, you're not standing there like a statue while the other person's talking. Life still goes on, and it's true in a film too. And I think that's the kind of depth that you can add to a character that makes them more lifelike, is when you're acting as if you were in real life. You're not necessarily staring at the guy the entire time he's talking. You're looking around, you're watching things, you see the car go by, you're thinking about what you did this morning, you're thinking, did I leave the stove on? All those things, throw that into a character. It's going to add depth because it's adding reality. It's adding realism to it.
Do you feel that it's a lot harder to actually advance in the industry rather than just progressing into the industry?
Yeah, especially now, when you're a lead actor and you're carrying a picture, it's easier to advance because your name is out there. It's the person who's associated with the project. But especially when you're a character actor, and a lot of times you become the character, so they don't remember you as the actor, they remember the character. The problem with that is, so many times, it's like when you go to start the next project, you're starting from scratch. There is no build-up. You're constantly having to reprove yourself to the people. You weren't in it. Yes, I was. And then they go, oh, you were Minor 49. Yeah, I totally forgot about that. Or whatever character you're playing, because, you get lost in the role. And because of that, it is hard to advance yourself. That's why sometimes you get so frustrated because you feel like I haven't made any advancement in 35 years. And then you have to realize, wait a minute, the fact that I'm still doing this after 35 years means there has been some advancement. The fact that I'm still working, that I have over 100 credits on my resume, I am moving forward, just not on such a sharp incline as you think when you first start in this business. You think, I'm going to get a couple films under my belt and then I'm going to be a star. Well, what does a star mean? Does a star mean that, you can't go out in public and people can't leave you alone and you have no life? Does it mean being able to work in the career that you like and have a living and, like I said, 35-year career? As far as I'm concerned, that I have advanced. The fact that I'm still working, I know lots of people along the way that have had to move on and go into other things because the acting hasn't come when you wanted it to. It's not a business that you get into for the sake of becoming famous. It's not the business you get into. It's something that you have to do. I have to. Every part of my soul tells me I have to act. I have to do this. And that's where that whole trope of the starving actor comes from. It's like, I don't care if I'm getting paid. I don't care if I have food. I have to do this. And this is not an easy career, especially if you're not into rejection, especially if you are a fragile type person. You're never going to survive in this because you can go to 100 auditions and maybe book one. That's one success, and 99 times someone told you weren't good enough. So unless you need to do this career with every ounce of your being, find something else to do. There's enough of us that need to do this that are struggling.
Do you feel that the industry of today kind of just uses repetitiveness as the main selling point because they need this specific type of role and so forth and so forth? And not only that, do you also feel that the term artist or art is more like just a prop to put on a doorstop to get in the door of today's industry?
Well, what you said is so true, especially in television where an hour-long drama, they have like 8 or 9 days to shoot it. There is hardly any creativity. It is, like you were saying, it is all stereotypes. It is all roles because they're thinking fast and they just want the audience to be able to recognize certain types right away. So if that's a cop, he's going to look like we think a cop. Every type of person does every type of job in the real world. Tall people, small people, fat people, skinny people, they all do all the jobs of the world except in the film industry. In the film industry, a certain idea of what people look like in those roles, and unless you look like that, you're not going to get hired most of the time. In film, first of all, you have more time, so you can get a little more creative and you can work these things out. But I think, putting up the shingle that says artist can be a bit of a stretch because it's more commerce than art, especially when you're a day player or someone who's just coming in and out. It's really just about the check. So you gotta find your moments if you think of yourself as an artist, because you're coming in for a couple hours, saying a few lines and going home. There really isn't much art involved. It is more of a prop. You're just saying I'm an artist. The reality is you're just another crew member, and your job is to say a few lines and go home and make the best of it. But don't get too high on yourself. You're not doing a 4-hour theatrical piece on stage somewhere. Sometimes it's better to think you're good than to actually be good. That's why you have so many mediocre talents that rise.
You yourself have been in quite a bit of even low-budget movies, low-budget projects. If they spend enough time within that on a low budget, that they only perform just in the low budget type mentality based on the pay.
Yeah, and that horror world where certain actors become known as the go-to person in indie film, and if you don't have any money, get this person, they'll do anything. And because they have a name or they have some sort of cachet as far as independent film goes, they know they can hire them. But the reality is, yes, as an actor, when you do a lot of these indie type films, you can get lazy and you can just show up because you take the high road thinking I'm helping these people out, they should be happy that I'm here. But the reality is, you never know where opportunities come from, and when you're on set, just act like a professional. Do your job as best as you can do. It doesn't matter what the budget is, if it's $100 million movie or if it's a couple Tic Tacs and a thank you. The fact of the matter is, you're supposed to show up and do your job to the best of your ability. If you do want to advance, like we mentioned earlier, half-assing it, it doesn't matter if you think the production is a half-assed production. You could still be the best thing about that. And too many people do get stuck in that mindset of, this is all I'm ever going to do. Well, if you have that mindset, then that is all you're going to ever do. But if you show up on every film thinking that, this is $100 million film and the whole world's going to see it and I'm going to be a superstar, well, you will advance with that kind of an attitude. It's more of the attitude than the actual work sometimes.
Do you feel that content, regardless of this character or if it's a storyline or whichever it may be, do you feel that can also be a harsh reflection, almost a penalty based off of that if they keep doing the same thing over and over within that kind of a budget or that kind of a content?
I had many moments of depression where for example, when I was at my heaviest after 13 Ghosts, I was probably about 598 pounds, and I lost 250 pounds, and I went through a huge depression because I thought that so much of my identity was caught up in the fact that I was this big, tall, round guy, and now that I wasn't as big or round as I used to be, no one's going to hire me anymore. And the reality, first of all, my wife made me realize that it doesn't matter how much weight I lose, I'm still bigger than the average person, so get over yourself on that. But if you think you're only getting hired for playing big, huge, fat guys, and all of a sudden you're not as big and as not as fat as you used to be, it takes a bit to get yourself out of that funk to realize that, I can do other stuff. And then as I got older and I stopped getting all of these creature type roles and creature performer where you're wearing a suit or you're wearing lots of prosthetic makeup, you get hung up in that then, where people are only bringing you in if the breakdown for the role says something about he's an over the top, larger than life creature, or he's wearing prosthetic makeup. And it's taken a while to branch out from that to the point where now I just want to play normal human beings. I just want to be the friendly neighbor, or the guy, the kid's father, or I don't necessarily want to be a monster anymore or a creature. Those roles were nice and they got me attention and they got my career going. But yeah, you can get stuck in that, and you have people who play monsters and then they end up doing nothing but that. And then, like you said, with the independent films and the horror and what have you, people will jump on a stereotype, and if they can get you to play that kind of thing in all their movies, they will. And there's no reason to think beyond that because you're making them money playing those type of roles as an artist, as we said. I don't think everybody can play everything, like some people say, but I think that you also don't want to limit yourself and just play the same role all the time. I think you can get hung up on that, you can get caught up in that, and it becomes sort of a part of your identity if you allow it. You start thinking that's all I can play, when sometimes you just need someone to give you a chance at trying something different. And that's why I don't turn down roles depending on the size of them. It might be the type of character I've never played before, and this gives me an opportunity to have other people see me play that type of character. And also, work is work. You don't know who's watching anything that you do. The guy who's the grip on this film that you have a small little role in, tomorrow he might be directing his own movie and he'll remember you from the thing, and next thing you know, you get something out of that. So you can definitely get hung up on, and the industry can keep you in one spot, but you got to push out of it if you want to stretch and you want to grow.
There's also a need and want kind of divided line, regardless of what profession that you want to go into. Did you ever feel that you needed to be this character or wanted this role or wanted this, not just because of the pay, not because of the career, but was there a point where that you had to basically question any of these roles? Do you feel like you also question some of these roles? 13 Ghosts, like the physique and everything, it's a big budget movie at that time.
At that point in my life, I was happy to get anything, and the fact that I was at my heaviest and they wanted me to basically spend the next 3 months in my underwear on set at the biggest point in my life, sometimes you just have to suck it up and say, this is what the character looks like, this is who the character is, and this is how I'm going to be dressed for the next 3 months. But once you realize the size of a role, as far as dollar-wise, how much you're going to make from it, it's hard to get that out of your head. You can't. Only thing that's going to change that for me is if it's a role where they're extra violent towards women. I've turned down many roles where it looked like an interesting character and an interesting performance could come out of it, but then I start seeing that he's doing things towards women, for example. I don't mind doing those kind of roles if there's a comeuppance where he gets, his just desserts at the end. There's payback for what he did. That I don't mind. But when you're just an evil person for the sake of being an evil person, I will back out of that kind of stuff. Money-wise, it's hard to shake the knowledge of how much money you could make on something. But at the same time, because, we all have to live, we all have to pay bills. So that always comes into consideration. But you also think, okay, am I going to get to have fun with this? And something like 13 Ghosts, now how can you not have fun with that? You have no lines of dialogue, so now you're just getting to play a monster and scare people, and you lose sight of the fact that you're in your underwear 2 minutes after they yell action because you're the character, and the character dresses this way. It's funny though, because as soon as they'll yell cut, you're like, where's my robe? Where's my robe? It's always so funny. It's like when they yell action, you're the great child. This is what the great child looks like, and away you go. And the second they yell cut, now I'm back to being Ernst Harth, and Ernst Harth is uncomfortable standing here in his underwear. Give me my robe. All those things play in. But in the end, it's how much fun can I have with this, and whether I'm getting paid is secondary. Everyone needs to get paid, but that's not at the top of the list. But it's definitely in there, and you make choices. But in the end, that's basically the difference between being a working actor and being a star. Is you still have to audition, you still have to hustle, you still have to get out there and fight for your job. Whereas when you reached a certain point in your career as a star, you get offered stuff all the time. But I remember working with, not to drop names, but I remember working with Malcolm McDowell, and the one thing he said is, I hate auditioning. I'm glad I haven't had to audition in dozens of years, and thankfully people hire me now on the strength of my past work, because nobody likes auditioning. It's a horrible feeling to take something that you're not 100% on and get in front of people and know that whatever comes out of your mouth is going to be the thing that decides whether you get hired, not whether you can do the job or whether your 35 years of experience tells them that you can do the job. It's right now at this moment, whenever I get offered a role with a direct offer, I always jump on it, because I do not like auditioning, and I do not like self-tapes. And ever since COVID, that's what the world has come down to, is that you have to send in self-tapes for everything now.
Even though there are projects out there that are having to have a fixed budget, like no room for anything else, just that. Mm-hmm. And it's actors. How does an actor, when they are hired for the right part per se, stay adjusted on their own finance if they continue to work within, let's say, the low budget or any kind of budget type film, and if they continue to go on that path and so forth?
You better have a supportive spouse who has a full-time job and is fully behind your career choice and is willing to help pay the bills, or you're going to be working gig jobs. You're going to be in the gig economy. You're going to be picking up people in your Uber or dropping off food, or you're going to be working as a waiter, because you're not going to be able to sustain any kind of career, especially if you're in the indie world. And even in the big budget world, if you're a working actor, working doesn't mean you're making tons of money. It just means you're working, and working doesn't mean every day either. People always think there's 365 days a year. Well, someone who calls himself a working actor may have only worked 5 days that year. So they definitely have to have something else going on. It's a tough one to negotiate, the wanting to pursue this career and wanting to have something come of it, but also needing to live and needing to pay bills and needing to have those responsibilities taken care of. And that's why so many people drop out, because people don't want to work as a waiter on their off time for their whole life. But if you want to be an actor, that's what you're going to have to find a gig. That hard part of getting a job as an actor is that you need to be open for auditions, you need to be open for meetings, you need to be open to go to set when it's time to work. And most jobs don't want to give you time off, because their attitude is, this is your job, you should want to be here. If you want to be an actor, then you don't need to be here and go work somewhere else. So as an actor, it's hard. That's the hardest thing to negotiate this industry, is finding a job that'll allow you to take time off to go pursue your other thing. Because most jobs want that job to be the most important thing in your life.
Oh, definitely. Go ahead and plug in any websites or anything that you care to add or advice or anything like that. Anything that we can check out?
Yeah, well, I have a Facebook page. CEHARTH is my Facebook page, but you can just put in C. Ernst Harth, and on there, pinned to the top. If you can't see me at a convention, or if you can't meet me somewhere, you can go to my Facebook page, and I have all my convention prints for sale, 8x10s. If there's anything anyone's interested in, they can contact me there, send me a message, and I'll sign a photo for you. I've also got an address there for mail-ins, so if anyone has any posters or any movies or DVDs, that kind of thing they want signed, they can send them to me, and I'll sign them and send them back. Everything is very low cost. $30 is the only charge. $30 to sign something, $30 to buy a photo, and that includes shipping. So I'm just trying to reach out to as many people as I can, and I know that not everybody can make it to a convention, so at least this way they can contact me, and we can connect that way.
There you have it, everybody. That is actor C. Ernst Harth.